Why, hello, everybody. This is Eric Vierthaler of Vierthaler Studios here with my co host Ty from Junebug Films. We're here with our next special guest. Please introduce yourself.
My name is Beth Gaines. Sorry, Beth Gaines, and I am a former history teacher and currently work in the film industry as a studio teacher.
Hmm. That's
But yeah, uh, but yeah, um, thank you so much for sharing that, and we also want to thank you for taking time out of your day to be here.
Absolutely. Always
and
like to help people.
and I loved. I just want to say I loved history in school. It's one of probably what I was one of the kids that my let's see when I got my report card. My mom made the joke, Tyler, you have the alphabet. So, but history was one of the things that I actually did good at. So, because I loved history. What was your favorite topic to teach? Like the favorite era of history, I guess, that you really enjoyed teaching.
I have to admit that I really enjoyed teaching about the Korean War, the Vietnam War, and the McCarthy era. Both my father and my brother served in both of those locations. And I especially found Vietnam to be a challenge for the kids to understand, but also remarkably interesting with all the covert actions and the undercover tunnels and having difficulty knowing who the enemy was.
Thank you for your family, your family's service.
You're welcome.
And no, that's a very fascinating era of history. I think my favorite was always Roman. So
also very good.
Yes, and but you also teach acting. So like, what type of methods do you really teach your students, like Lee Strasberg or one of the other people?
I don't actually teach acting.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I must have.
It's okay.
I need to get my hearing aids checked.
It's okay. I didn't mean to. A lot of people have no idea, but when you have minors in a film or on television or any kind of theater program, you have to have a teacher or sometimes they call us child wranglers, which I'm not crazy about, or child labor coordinator. There has to be somebody who's there looking out for the best interest of the child. And in my case, besides doing that on the film set, I also instruct them and have class with them 3 hours a day in a studio classroom. So my job is to make sure that while they are filming, that they are also keeping up with their schoolwork. So I work with both the child and production to make sure that everything works out well for the child. All the laws are followed, and the child comes out with great academics at the end.
Yes, that's great. Let's see.
What exactly inspired you to? But yeah, what exactly inspired you to get into the industry of film?
Well, actually, I have to blame it on my son. My son and I have always been huge film nerds, horror film nerds. And from the time he was in 7th grade, he said he wanted to work in the film industry. And he did go work in the industry. And one day he called me and said, "Mom, we need a teacher." And I said, "Oh, really? Okay, well, let me come check it out." And that was pretty much it. I went on the film set, and for the next 2 summers, I worked all summer and found the magic that is film. And after 2 summers, I went to my principal and said, "I'm really sorry, but I got to go do this. This is the most amazing thing that I have ever done. I get to teach, I get to be with children, and oh my gosh, the magic of film. I'm sorry. Every day is something amazing."
Yes. Well, I can imagine, working, with all the kiddos is pretty fun too, especially knowing that, kids, you know, at kids' heart, they're all actors in some way, you know, and
They are.
now that they're basically, because, and you get to see the ones that will actually probably, you know, continue and maybe be future Oscar winners, you know, and
Possibly, yeah.
I can't, you know, and because Kurt Russell said it best, you know, at the end of the day, what we do is we play make believe for a living. So,
yeah, pretty
You
much.
get paid.
yeah,
How can it get any better than you get to, you know, I get to work with children who I adore, and then I get to see how everything happens. Like I worked like on a Marvel movie this year, and
oh yeah,
I was gobsmacked, okay, at the technology and the things that they were able to do. And it was riveting. I was so excited. I couldn't wait to get to work every day. And that's how I felt about the
can you tell us which Marvel movie, or are you?
It was Thunderbolt. I think I can tell you. I mean, it's going to come out soon.
Okay, in case Disney's watching, we didn't hear anything, right?
Right. No.
What'd you say?
Nothing.
Huh?
Nothing whatsoever. I said it was a Lifetime film.
Yeah, exactly.
So anyway,
But yeah,
well,
I'm sorry.
Well, I just, you know, think it's really awesome that, you know, I hope, you know, that they can actually, I really think that's awesome because I've seen what they heard about what they do to talk about, you know, make sure that their academics are there and everything and all that stuff. And, you know, I think that, you know, teachers, especially, you know, I respect them so much because, you know, and everything. And I think Eric, you can safely say some of your teachers, you wouldn't be who you are today without your teachers. So
1000%, yeah. And I mean, all the teachers, and I mean every single teacher you have like that, like pretty much the future of all these kids, like who they teach, their future is in their hands.
Absolutely. That's why I thought history was so important because I also taught government. And I never said anything about my personal political views, but I always tried to make sure that kids understood. Oh, well, that's not my job. My job is to make sure that the children understand their government and make wise decisions on their own because they are the future. Absolutely.
And yeah, no, I mean, I think Eric, you know, we could always list me and Eric both could list teachers that we loved and teachers that were like, oh, fudge, I got to go to his class. You know, and
unfortunately, I knew some of those people too.
Yes, well, I think it's safe to say, based on her personality, I think she would be one of our favorite teachers, right, Eric?
Oh yeah.
I didn't have too many problems with the kids because, you know, I tried to show them respect and enjoy their humor. And, you know, people who spend all their time going, oh, be quiet, oh, sit down. Maybe, you know, I would rather have an opportunity to get to know the student and have in-depth, important conversations than worried about whether or not somebody's always seated, you know. So, so I think I was lucky.
And well, I mean, even, you know, working with some of the kids, you know, I mean, I know, I think sometimes, you know, I know like Nickelodeon has a huge market in Georgia.
Yes.
And, you know, I think because Ted Turner had it and he basically made Atlanta what it is I know Cartoon Network, but they don't really do much live action. They don't really do much live action much anymore, but can you let's see, like, can you want to talk about like any Nickelodeon experiences you've had lately or no?
I actually haven't worked for Nickelodeon. And just a point of history so that you know, Jimmy Carter, when he was president of the United States,
Rest in
was
peace.
really intrigued by the filming of Deliverance. It was filmed here in Georgia. And maybe not the topic, but anyway, he was fascinated with the idea that Georgia could become a place where filming could be important.
Right.
And I know most people don't know this, but he established the first Georgia film group in Georgia.
Yes, and Ted Turner really did expand it too. I mean, creating CNN, Turner Classic Movies. Because when I go to Atlanta, this guy knows this because Turner Classic Movies was a huge part of my life. I love classic films through them. I have to at least visit Turner Classic Movies. Unfortunately, I can't meet Robert Osborne, but I would at least like to meet Ben Mankiewicz, and I know she's in another state, but Eric knows this. I want to meet Alicia Malone. So
you definitely do.
Yes, I do.
Well, you never know who you're going to see here in Atlanta.
Yeah.
So, anybody from Colin Firth to Jack Black. I did a film with Jack Black 2 years ago that came out this past Christmas called Dear Santa. And he was already one of my all-time favorites for the School of Rock, but he was one of the most amazing people that I ever met. He was just the kindest person and great with the kids. So you just never know who you're going to see here.
Oh, definitely not. And honestly, I'm not surprised that he's good with kids, considering that he also did School of Rock. So.
Yes.
Well, I just want to say this. I think it's about time that we, legacy sequels are big right now. Can we get a legacy? Can we get a legacy sequel to School of Rock?
I think it would be fun.
I think it would be cool. And I think what you should do with it. This is just my pitch. So if anybody's watching here, Miranda Cosgrove is still a huge name.
Yes.
Yeah.
Have Dewey be down on his luck, and then Miranda Cosgrove is, reintroduces the School of Rock, but you have her be the teacher now.
That might be really amazing. I can say that, Jack Black was absolutely remarkable, sang on set. He was a wild, crazy guy, but also so polite, so kind, just to everybody. So
yes, I did, and I actually ended up seeing a Dear Santa this year. I thought it was. I'm going to be honest; it wasn't really my cup of tea, and I thought it was funny. But but I actually, I thought it was fun to watch it. Just to see a new Christmas movie, and Eric, I don't think you didn't end up seeing it yet, have you? I think it's on, but
I have not yet. But yeah, I haven't had as much time to watch as many movies as I used to. I mean, the last movie I saw was Peter Pan's Neverland. It was like that new Peter Pan horror movie that just came out. I think it's called Neverland Nightmare. And yeah, it's definitely a very different take on Peter Pan.
Wow.
Yes. I like to ask the guests too. What are you would know this being a history teacher, but what are your thoughts about the more people taking these public domain characters and turning them into horror movies? Because I've always made an interesting argument to them. I think I like them because they kind of go back to fairy tales' original roots. Because you read the original fairy tales, oh my gosh!
Yes. I absolutely adore horror movies. That was one of the things that my son and we watched all of them, even when I watched them like that, because I wasn't crazy about the ones that cut everybody up. It was like more of the psychological thriller. But I think that any public domain character that's out there that someone can find a new take on that character and make it into something really interesting and spine tingling, I'm all for it. I love scare. Except I will say that I have seen a couple of scary movies in the last couple months, and I don't think I should name it, but there were a couple that were not. I was like, what was this supposed to be about? You know.
Well, yeah. Oh, fudge! We don't get the dirt on the movie she did.
All I can say is that the main character is a very famous actor, and you would never recognize him in the show at all. Not his voice, not his face.
I only tease, but no. Let's see here.
Out of all horror movies you have seen, which one would you say like has been your favorite one?
I have to say all the Alien movies. The first one scared me so bad that I ran out of the theater after the thing popped out of the guy's chest, right?
Yeah.
And so I didn't get to see the whole thing for a couple of months. But since that time, I love the good storytelling. I love the backstories. I love Prometheus.
Yeah.
And I did go see the new one, and it was outstanding. I was like this the whole time. It was absolutely frightening, but really well done. I was very impressed.
Oh yeah, and one of the things that made the original movie so terrifying was that knowing that it all took place in outer space, and since they were in outer space, there was only so much help that they could have, and so pretty much when they're trapped in that spaceship with the alien, they're doomed.
Yeah, I mean, death outside, death inside. What are you going to do?
Hence the tagline. No one can hear you scream.
Yeah.
And about that, and I absolutely love like how in the movie Killer Clowns from Outer Space, I absolutely loved like how they spoofed that when they said, "In space, nobody can eat ice cream."
Yeah, it's always nice to see when shows make nods to other shows. I think when my son was growing up and we would watch Family Guy, I hope I'm allowed to say that, we'd watch Family Guy.
Yeah.
And, you know, there were always constant nods to films, you know, Back to the Future, all kinds of things, you know, and he would ask me, Mom, what is that about? You know, and I would tell him, and then we'd have to go watch that whole series of films, you know. So, you know, I think it's important to kind of keep some of those characters alive and some of those taglines alive. We have a whole new generation of people who, you know, could miss out on things. I feel the same way about books. Sometimes people don't read books either.
Which is a real shame.
Well, we love classic film here, and me and Eric both. And I think it's really sad when you hear, you know, kids now, especially when they want to be in the industry, refuse to watch black and white movies just because they're in black and white.
That's sad.
Yes. Well, you know, and it's kind of silly because clearly their parents haven't explained to them that that's the history of film, and this is how film started, and then this is where film is today. And in order to understand how we got where we are today, we have to look at all those people who came before and how they paved the way, all those camera people and the technicians who came up with these crazy ideas to put, you know, things on film.
Well, I mean, I've even, you know, I've even said to people, you know, I've even met people that are actual film buffs that have never even seen a silent movie.
Oh my, that's a shame. Yeah.
Well, but somebody who wanted to get into a silent movie said, "Well, what would be a good suggestion for? What would be a good suggestion to start?" I said Nosferatu, because I feel like that one.
Yeah.
I'm dying to go see that. I can't wait to go see it. But I did just watch the 1922 version the other night. It's available on some streaming platform. I don't remember which one.
It should be on all of them, because I mean they don't have to pay anything. So
right.
Since it is in the public domain, and I mean, I first originally saw the movie on YouTube since it's in public domain. But yeah, one of the really cool things, like what my area did, for the 100th anniversary, they actually had a showing of it. And, and YouTube probably will concur with this, but I feel like if you truly want to get the true experience of watching a movie, I mean, can you watch it at home and enjoy it? Sure. But I feel like you'll get a much richer experience if you see it on the big screen. And what I thought was so cool, a movie that was 100 years old, like that, people still went and saw it.
I think it's important. It's part of, film has been one of those things that sometimes kept Americans happy in terrible times. It has got across important ideas to people who, in the early periods may or may not have been able to read or had as much education as others. So it's important to recognize, all the historical film that's out there.
Yep.
And also, look at the time, especially during the Great Depression.
Absolutely.
The Universal monsters, I mean, really kept a lot of the studios afloat during that time, and it kept Americans happy during a time when, I mean, say whatever your financial struggles are now. During the Depression, people went for years without a job because we were, and my great grandpa had to go to a grocery store then, and he, my grandma would tell stories how he struggled, and sometimes that was the only source of entertainment, spending that 25 cents at the time. Which, can we have movies please go back to that, right?
Oh yeah, wouldn't that be nice? That
yeah.
Well, I think, Eric, you were the one who was saying something about seeing things on the big screen. I live in the northern suburb of Atlanta, and back in November, one of our theaters decided to re-air all of the Harry Potter films in order on their biggest screen. And it was $5 a film. And I would agree with you. I went back to see them again, and it was like a whole new experience. Mm-hmm. And of course, about the same time, we lost Maggie Smith during that. But, seeing things on a big screen is good. I wish they'd bring drive-in movie theaters back. I wish I could win the lottery, because I would build a drive-in movie theater.
Luckily, we still have some in Kansas. So.
Oh, well. We have one here in Atlanta, but I'm not sure it's safe to go to.
Oh,
that's a shame.
I saw Jaws one time in the theater, and here's my thing, and I even got to see Raiders of the Lost Ark in theaters, and it's weird saying this when you grow up with the movie on DVD, VHS, and all the other forms out there. It's weird when you see it on the big screen. In a weird way, it's like you're seeing it for the first time again, because it's a totally new experience. Like, one of my favorite things now in Raiders of the Lost Ark is Paul Freeman, how he is sitting there acting, and you actually could see it in the frame. He actually ate a bug.
I must have missed that one.
Well, it's a scene where he's yelling up at, he sits there, Jones.
Oh, okay.
And there's literally a bug that crawls into his mouth, and it's like he's still acting. Like, talk about a great acting.
The show must go on.
Yeah. And then, like with, seeing Jaws was a very interesting experience, because they had to restart the movie.
Oh.
No, it was just funny. It was funny because so there was an obnoxious guy, at the scene at the beginning. He sit there, shark. And the one guy sits there. You hear him yell at the top of his lunch, "Shut up!" And he continues to do it. And then the guy walks over, dumps his entire popcorn bucket on him.
Oh my! Well, wow. He had that coming. You know,
And then it was even funnier because then the guy yelling shark went to go complain to the manager. The manager then said he was justified in doing that, and so then they just decided to restart the movie just because I mean it was at the beginning, so but so
Well, that's interesting.
yeah, it was that was definitely an experience you'll never forget, and I've gotten to see Night of the Living Dead a few times in the theater. That was pretty cool to see, because they don't have to pay anything to see it. So
yeah, and I mean since that that's in the public domain too, even though it wasn't intended to go into the public domain immediately when it came out, but it did.
Mm-hmm.
The films that I remember the most from my early childhood are probably things that neither of you would have wanted to see, but I can remember going to the Unsinkable, Molly Brown, Hello Dolly, and of course, growing up in Austin, Texas, I had to go see the Best Little Whorehouse in Texas because, of course, they filmed it there.
Right.
Lots of musicals, in the 60s and 70s, and I saw them all, and unfortunately for my poor son, he saw them too.
Hey, I love music. I love musicals too. Not as much as this guy hasn't seen much musicals, but I love my musicals. Because my grandma grew up with that always would have me watch them. Like, so I got to see the big grand RKO musicals and MGM ones, and I think her favorite was ironically, as we say this, the song went public domain, but not the movie. But Singing in the Rain was one of her favorites. I remember when Turner Classic Movies was doing a documentary about Gene Kelly. She had to watch it. Like, sure. This was like, because I remember I would spend the summers in South Dakota with my grandparents, and my grandma. We had things to do today with Grandpa and Grandma, but Grandma had to be home at 5:30 to see, and we showed up at 5. I think it was like 5:28.
Oh wow!
Well, got there just in time. That's how I felt when Lost and the X-Files and Twin Peaks came out. When those shows came out, I had to be home and I had to be in front of the TV, and those kids better go to bed and leave mom alone because those those were just 3, but I mean there were so many others. But
that I'm not here to criticize streaming, but that is one of the things that I think is missed with streaming. Like, oh, you can watch it anytime. Now it's like there was that time period when you're like you have to get home at this time. Like, for me, one of the shows for me that I loved as a teenager was My Name Is Earl.
Oh yes, very funny.
And I always had to get home in time because Dad always had errands to run after work, but we had to get home at that time. I remember one time we got home and it was literally right on the dot. And like it was 6:30 when it came on, and then and then of course they didn't show it because there's extreme weather coming in our area. So that's the thing that's just missed with streaming. It's like now kids don't have to worry about that now. I mean, Eric, you probably remember a lot of it. You probably remember some of this stuff, like what we're talking about. When you had to watch your favorite show, but
yeah, I actually do. Like back when I was a kid, I was a really big Simpsons fan, and Simpsons would come on every, I think, Monday or so at 6 p.m. And and I would always have to make sure that I would get to the TV on time to watch The Simpsons. And now nowadays almost every episode is on Disney now, which and I mean I never would have thought that someday Disney would own the rights to The Simpsons, but nowadays though it seems like they're trying to own everything now.
Well, I suppose. I know my son loved Family Guy. He still loves Family Guy, but The Simpsons, I think, was his first, big attraction. And I can remember his best friend, they were like 7 or 8. His best friend said, Miss Gaines, why do you let him watch The Simpsons? It's so inappropriate. And I was like, what? I said, okay, so maybe there's some inappropriate things, but wouldn't it be better if I explain to him what those things mean than he goes to school and find out from somebody else, and I teach him to appreciate the humor.
I kind of would argue too, in some ways, The Simpsons and even some of those shows, it's not as, you might as well not have, your kid watch the Muppets, because you watch the Muppets now. Oh my gosh! Like there are some like they got away with that, and even then, like look at the old Looney Tunes cartoons. Like, I mean, people complain about The Simpsons now, or King of the Hill, or I think Eric can say that our favorites is probably more Beavis and Butthead out of those animated style cartoons.
I'm sorry. I love all of them, but I never could stand Beavis and Butthead with that snorting nose and that cornholio thing. I feel like crazy. But now I'll watch all the rest of them.
Hey, well, we'll enjoy it, so you don't have to, right, Eric?
Yeah, you
exactly.
can have my share. But not very many things that
But we were. One of the things is, so we were here. Where was I going with this? Looney, you watch some of the old cartoons from the 1930s. I mean, those cartoons were not originally meant for children.
I don't think they're meant for children today. Although I think Disney does a really good job, and some of the other film companies do a really good job of putting together cartoon material that has some interest for children, but they also have laced it with all that adult content just for us, so we don't slit our wrists while watching it.
Yes, because I have, you watch some of those you watch, like, I think I kind of argue something, like, if you have to have that proper balance so the adult, so the parents can enjoy it and the kids. If you make it too kiddie, you end up getting something like what you end up getting, people rebelling against it and making memes about it on the internet, and not the funny memes. So
right. Yeah. No, I think that they finally figured out that they have to entertain the whole family. It can't just be strictly for the child. And if you want to put some highbrow or historical content into something that will go right past the kids, I think that's good. I think that shows another level and another layer of the writing that goes into film.
Well, my dad, I think, Eric, you could say that your dad always did this. If, like there was like a kid, there's jokes in it that we're not going to understand at all. Like
a really good example is in the Jim Carrey Grinch. There was the part like where all of those Who babies are falling down from the sky, and then that one falls into that front guy's porch, and he's like, "Honey, our baby's here. He looks just like your boss." and that part as a kid went right over my head. But now as I watch it as an adult, now I finally understand the joke, and I'm like, that was very, very, very subtle.
I recently one of the things I appreciate about Disney Plus is I could actually rewatch The Muppet Show, and because I never got an opportunity to really see it because it premiered way before I was born, but I always heard about it, and I was watching The Muppet Show, and there was a joke in there. It was either Statler or Waldorf, the guys in the balcony. I think because I don't know. I know which is which, but I can't remember now. But one of them sit there and said, I dated one of the Barrymores. Kermit sit there and said, "Oh, Ethel? No, Lionel." And
Whoa.
as soon as she said that, I think you knew the punchline was it's like a kid's not going to understand that, and
Well,
but it's like, but us,
but
no,
you probably have no idea who Lionel Barrymore is. So,
which is sad. They probably don't even know who Drew Barrymore is, the current Barrymore. So,
well, yeah, that's entirely possible. One day when I was in my classroom, before I left the classroom, I was watching an old Thin Man film with Myrna Loy and William Powell. And, of course, they've got their martinis, whatever. And the kid came back because they left something, in my classroom. And I'm like scrambling to turn it off, because, clearly the idea that anybody drank anything other than water as a teacher was, but he was like, "What kind of show was that?" And I said, "Oh, it's a really great show. It's just an old show. And I like to watch it while I'm grading papers, but
hey, I mean, why not watch the Thin Man movies while you're grading papers? I love those movies. Because actually what's very interesting too is the Thin Man and the old Bulldog Drummond movies were the inspiration for James Bond.
Yes, they were.
Oh,
absolutely. Yep.
And that's, I love a lot of those old spy movies that were from the 1930s. Like, if when I get into the industry, well, that's one thing I want to do. Like, I wanted to say, let's do a reboot of Charlie Chan. And actually,
those were so good with the hat, the flying hat.
Yes, yeah. and actually cast an Asian as Charlie Chan. Let's.
Well, James Patterson, the writer, has just recently started a new book series. Now, it doesn't have Jackie Chan, but it could. But it's called Holmes, Marple, and Poe. And it's very entertaining. Very, very entertaining. Of course, clearly none of these people are the original characters, but they have a lot of the same characteristics. And I could actually see Jackie Chan coming in as a nemesis.
Charlie Chan.
Charlie Chan, sorry, not Jackie.
Yeah.
Wrong. But I could actually see that really working. And I wonder if he started writing this series for television, because I went through the first book in 2 days. I couldn't, it's not difficult reading, but it was very entertaining and brings back a lot of the Sherlock Holmes, the Miss Marple, and a lot about Edgar Allan Poe, which oddly, he seems to know a lot about Edgar Allan Poe, because
I guess I would say, he should have made it Dupin rather than Edgar Allan Poe, but right. I guess that would have been kind of too similar to Sherlock in some ways.
Right.
So, because
possibly, yeah.
Well,
do you even know who we're talking about there, buddy? Auguste Dupin.
Yeah.
He was Sherlock Holmes was predecessor to C. Augustus Dupin, which I want to, it's Eric. It's the detective for the murder on Rue Morgue.
Yeah.
And I think nobody has ever even done that as a movie series. Because there's 3 books.
They actually did do the movie. It's a really old one. I want to say that it's black and white. I'm saying that the chimpanzee is orange, or the orangutan. You can't tell that the orangutan is orange.
I know they did the Murder on Rue Morgue. I'm saying do the other 2 books with the same.
Yeah. Well, that one wasn't done very well. So, but
I would say the best one, and it's mainly just because I like him as an actor, but the best one was with George C. Scott.
He was really good. He's a very interesting actor. I really loved him in Patton.
Mm-hmm.
I thought he
Yeah.
was quite good in that. And
Mm-hmm.
there were a lot of other things he was in. It's just that's what sticks out in my mind is that.
Well, Patton, it's really interesting for him to play Patton because he looked like Patton. He did
Yes.
not sound
Yeah.
like he did not sound like Patton because Patton had this like if you heard his voice, it's like that's Patton, because
Right.
he had this like very squeaky voice,
Yeah.
not very commanding at all.
I think
But
there could have been other people who could have played that role as well, but maybe not quite as well, even though the voice was a little bit hinky.
well, I know that some of the original actors considered were Robert Mitchum,
He would be
which
okay.
maybe and then I think another one was Telly Savalas.
Oh, no.
Which I'm like, I
Maybe.
can't see him as Patton.
No, I can't see him as Patton. All I can ever see him as is the guy with the lollipop. And he was so good at that. I mean, unfortunately, sometimes people are so good at something that they get like, I mean, you think about Daniel Radcliffe and he's going to be a 50-year-old Harry Potter one day, although he has really moved forward and done some fun things.
I think, I don't know. Like, I actually, I think, I know J.K. Rowling said that she'll probably never happen, but I would be curious now. I know they're remaking Harry Potter.
Yes, they are right now.
Which I'm like, I know, which I'm like, the movie's not even 30 years old yet, and we're remaking it. Okay, so whatever. But like, I'm like, Daniel Radcliffe is old enough now. Why don't you just do I know fans didn't like it, but why don't you do The Cursed Child?
Right.
Into a movie because
I think they're trying to turn this into a TV series, if I'm not mistaken,
Yeah.
as opposed to movies. But The Cursed Child was a very interesting play, and they didn't really do anything with it.
Well, I think that I know fans didn't really like it too much. I guess I don't know what the whole issue was with it because, I mean, I watched the Harry Potter movies later. I was more the Lord of the Rings guy because those were the movies. Because J.R. Tolkien's my favorite author of all time. So, and I mean, so, but Eric, you've been quiet there. You got anything?
So I've heard that J.K. Rowling has had a lot of reservations about turning The Cursed Child into a movie. From my understanding, I have not read the book, so if I say anything that's wrong, sorry, I'm just saying to the best of my knowledge. But didn't that take place not too long after the Deathly Hallows, and and then therefore Harry Potter would have to be younger?
It took Harry Potter it was about Harry's son, so it would be like Daniel Radcliffe would be about the same age that he could have a kid. So
Okay, so yeah, Daniel's now what, in his 30s now, so I think that he could do it now.
Yeah,
he could probably do it now. I think they have so much money and time tied up in this new Harry Potter, the TV series, that, maybe once they get the first season of this out there and see how that goes, maybe that will give them some impetus to look at The Cursed Child. I know, not to be political, but she's, J.K. Rowling has come under fire a little bit for some of her personal beliefs, and those are her personal beliefs, and of course she's entitled to them. So, but I kind of wonder sometimes if that is going to have any impact on some of the projects that she might like to do. But I think Harry Potter is such a huge. I mean, to me, it's right up there with The Wizard of Oz. I've read every book. I've seen every movie. I've you know, I mean, there's almost nothing here. I mean, I've been to Universal about 1,000 times. So, yeah, I mean,
the only thing I don't like about Harry Potter, the one thing I have to say, speaking of Universal, they tore down the 1925 opera set just to make the Harry Potter world. I'm like, ugh.
That is a shame.
I get it, but it's like, couldn't you guys like move it somewhere, because that was like the oldest movie set in the world, and like oh my gosh, like you watched even the 1925 version of Phantom of the Opera, that set looks amazing, you know.
Right. And the one thing that I will say about J.K. Rowling, aside from her views, I mean, you got to give credit where credit's due. I mean, what I love about J.K. Rowling is her story is so inspiring, like about her life before Harry Potter. I mean, before Harry Potter, she was in a pretty dark place. And,
right.
And then, and then knowing that Harry Potter saved her entire life, I'm like, wow, that's inspiring. And then ever since I heard that story, I mean, I definitely do not think of Harry Potter the same way ever again. And that's definitely not a bad thing.
One of the things I thought about Harry Potter was that for the first time since The Lord of the Rings and maybe some of the Percy Jackson books, we finally had a series that came out that kids were clamoring to read. And I'm a huge reader. I always have been. And at the time that Harry Potter came out, I was working for a national bookstore. And I'll never forget, we put the first books out and we had people out front protesting that this was a book that was going to encourage witchcraft, and we were going to encourage children, to practice the dark arts and crazy stuff. And so I think we sold out of the first delivery like in 2 days. But after that, UPS had to ship the books in brown paper boxes without any information on the side, because some people who were a little bit upset about the series, and they couldn't have even read it yet, were out there harassing drivers. It's crazy.
Oh,
I mean, they took it off the bookshelves in schools, but today, those books encourage kids to read. And as far as I'm concerned, if you want to read People magazine, that's fine, but read. And so the idea that Harry Potter has brought so many kids back to books is, I think, wrong.
That it has.
Yes, and I'm trying to even think of a hype, because Eric, all of us are old enough to remember when that happened. The Harry Potter, Eric, was huge.
Oh, it was. Like everybody at my school, when the first movie came out, and when every movie would come out, especially the first movie, everybody went crazy over it. Everybody was talking about it. Like pretty much, you were not the cool kid at school unless if you saw Harry Potter.
Right.
And here's my thing. I actually remember when I think Goblet of Fire came out.
Yes.
And then
right?
Yes. Yes, it was. I think Chamber of Secrets, Prisoner of Azkaban, Goblet of Fire, I think. But I remember the big spoiler that happened. So, spoiler alert for a movie and book that's 20 plus years old,
right?
Where Snape kills Dumbledore. I remember people talking about that and how pissed they were. Like the internet existed then,
right?
But not as big as it does now. But the internet existed then, because the entire that was on every news outlet and everything. Like, I remember even my local news station had a tribute to Dumbledore.
Oh my goodness!
Wow!
Like, it was like, this is a character that what has only been around for, at that point, like 7 years, really? And And like, yeah, Percy Jackson did encourage kids to read, but it was not as big as Harry Potter. Like Harry Potter, like I remember even when Deathly Hallows came out, there was a big rumor that J.K. Rowling was going to kill off Harry Potter. You know, like I'm like, and my uncle was saying, oh, he could prove it and everything because he said she doesn't want people to take Harry Potter in creative liberties. And I'm like, the only way to do that would be to kill them off. And so I'm like, that was just the whole theory. Like, oh, how is she going to do it? And then obviously she didn't do it. So, but I just remember that, like that hype around Harry Potter. Like, it would be so interesting if a book series could do that again.
Yes.
But I don't even know how. What story that would be. Maybe somebody in their basement has it. But like, Eric, we've even talked about the whole thing with
Nobody wants your attention.
I guess so. And I put my phone on silent, and so my phone is not cooperating. But anyway, that being said, they should make a movie about J.K. Rowling, the Harry Potter story, because that is inspiring. Like what she was, I think wasn't she a single mom or something?
Yeah, she was a single mom, and she was working as a waitress, and she wrote like the first outline of the book on napkins at the restaurant where she worked at. It was very, very amazing story.
And then she wrote it, and then I think that should be a movie, honestly. And
it should.
Absolutely.
I guess, Eric, question for both of you. Who would you cast it as the young J.K. Rowling?
Good question. I was gonna say maybe Emma Thompson as like an older J.K. Rowling, which I think that could be fitting because wasn't she in one of the Harry Potter movies?
She is. She was
So
one of the actors.
Now, I have an actress who I think could do it.
Who's that?
Samara Weaving.
Oh.
She was in Hide and Seek. I think now she doesn't quite look like J.K. Rowling, but she looks, but makeup can solve that problem. But I also think that she would be good because it would be a good starting vehicle for her. I mean, she's playing J.K. Rowling. I mean, how could that not be a hit, right?
Well, I would have to vote for Cameron Diaz. Cameron Diaz has just recently made her comeback to the big screen with Jamie Foxx in Back in Action, which was filmed here in Atlanta, and I was lucky enough to work on. I never spoke to her, but he talked to all of us all the time. He was so funny. Oh my gosh, she was hysterical. But she's blonde. She's maybe about the right age. And I think she could pull off the British accent, but it's just a guess.
Yeah, well, I think that's a good choice. But yeah, there's a lot of great, and I more just picked because I think Samara Weaving, because she's about the right age for, because I think J.K. Rowling was like in her early 30s, and Samara Weaving's about that age. But Cameron Diaz would be good too, because I like Cameron Diaz, and I hope that, by the way, I hope with that whole Back in Action movie, I really hope that Jamie Foxx is okay with everything.
He was phenomenal. We had about
I'm saying,
minutes, and we were filming a scene. Since the movie's out, I think I can say this. We were filming a scene where he and Cameron Diaz are in the most incredible junker van and pull up to their kids' school. And they run into the school, and the kids are in the cafeteria, and they're like, okay, we gotta go right now. And so each time that they would film this, the son would say, Dad, what happened to the van? Okay. Now, I can't tell you how this is filmed in the end, but I can tell you that they filmed that scene 10, 15 times. And every time they filmed it, Jamie said something different. Oh, it was aliens. Or, oh, it was Bigfoot. I mean, he was so funny. He was right on it. He seemed very good spirits and good health.
Okay, well, I know that he had a health scare on the set, so I just hope he's okay.
Oh,
yeah. This was last fall. After the health scare, I only remember because it was like one of the most bitterly cold days I worked, and we were outside, and I was standing next to one of those, things that the propane heaters that they provide to keep you from freezing to death, and my coat caught on fire. And so I was like, I don't think this thing is working. And then all of a sudden, I to see feathers going everywhere. And the teacher next to me said, Beth, your coat's melting. And
that must have been scary.
It was embarrassing more than anything because I had to walk around with it the rest of the day, and it smelled terrible, and I was shedding everywhere.
I'm so sorry that you had to go through that.
It's okay. It was pretty funny.
Hey, Eric. I mean, I guess you could really say she sat down by the fire.
I did. I actually sat in the fire.
Yes, that's perfect. But yeah, the whole thing about Jamie Foxx having a health scare, I actually am not aware of that, so that's news to me. So,
well,
some sort of heart problem.
Yeah, that's what. That's what I heard. But hey, thoughts and prayers that he makes a good recovery and he's okay now. So.
Well, he was running all over the place. And so I would tell you, he was so funny. He would come and stand and talk to the teachers in between takes, and they would come and get him and say, "Come on, you got to come back." He was telling us crazy stories. Told us a story about the first time that he saw Denzel Washington. And he was a young actor, and he was standing outside some Hollywood nightclub where people went in and did comedy, and Denzel came out, and he was like, yeah, man. And he ran over to him and wanted to high five him. And he was like, Denzel's like, what's your deal, dude? And he's like, I just want to hug you, and he said Denzel Washington let him hug him. And years later, he reminded him that was the first time they met. Him as a young guy, and Denzel's a little bit older, more established actor. So he was telling us all kinds of stories. He seemed to be really great. So I'm so hopeful.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I mean, I definitely am pretty hopeful too. And I mean, I can relate to having a health scare because a few years ago I was having back problems.
Oh my.
And once you have back problems, it's like, I feel like it's one of those things where a lot of people just take for granted how much that we use our backs.
Oh,
and then once you start to have back problems, it's like everything falls apart. It's like walking, sitting down, doing normal everyday things. It's torture afterwards.
Well, I can relate because we recently had snow here, and just to make extra cash right now, I've been doing snow jobs.
Oh.
And I'm doing it by hand. I don't have the big fancy equipment, and I'm 32, yeah, still young, but it's starting to get to the point where I'm feeling too old to do it now because, we got about 3 inches of snow, so here I am doing 3, sometimes maybe 2 snow jobs. I know that doesn't sound much for some people, but it's like, you're doing it, you're walking to the location, carrying the shovel. It's gotten to the point where we had the snow Saturday, my back's still bugging me, but I'm still I'm the type of guy, unless I absolutely need it, who needs Tylenol, right?
Right. Yeah, we had snow here in Atlanta too, and I went and bought what I thought was the salt that you put on the sidewalk. Well, I hate to say this, but this major retailer had put swimming pool salt out front and said, use this. Well, all I can tell you is that the next day when I walked outside, I landed on my backside very unceremoniously, I might add. I was really glad there was nobody else outside to see me go down. But I have since bought a 50-pound bag of the right thing to put down.
Yeah. Well,
I'm so sorry you had to go through that.
It's been really funny. No, I've every time I've fallen on the ice now, because I just have to. There was one guy who saw me. I mean, I fell, and it looked like something out of an old, silent movie. I fell straight up in the air and right on my butt.
Oh, yeah.
And then and a guy said to me, "Are you okay?" I said, "He says, yeah. Where's the banana peel?" Because
that's a good one.
So the way I felt, it just looked like there was some banana peel, because it was, I mean. And then I heard about one guy who sat there and said he saw his neighbor was stuck in the snow, so here he is coming with the snow shovel, and he sat there and said he slipped on the ice, and he said he had to have gone like like at least a good foot in the air, and it fell right on his back.
Wow. Oh, that must hurt.
I just kind of sat down to the ground. And my biggest concern was just holding on to my dog, because I have a dog in my hands, because we were going to go to the car. And, she was like, all right, snow, ice, let me go get in this.
Right, yay.
Yeah,
how is Simba doing with the snow?
My dog, honestly, it's rather ironic, that knowing that his name is Simba, and so people would infer that he's a brave dog, but when it comes to snow and water, he's anything but that. Yeah, I noticed that when my dog walks through the snow, he will try to tiptoe around it, or say that he'll try to find the more melted parts, or if it's not more melted, well, and then he will just, I gotta really hand it to him, when he got to go that bad. I mean, when you got to go, you got to go. But I mean, even with water, I mean, there are some dogs who love to play in water. Right. But as soon as I would grab out the hose, just to, do any of that, my dog actually will go and hide.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, my dog never seen snow, so she loved it. But she's a little dachshund, and she was out there just digging holes in the snow. She was crazy.
Well, my cat is very upset with me right now, because it's an indoor-outdoor cat. It loves to be outside.
Yes.
But we're not letting it outside right now because it's too cold for kitties. But this cat is the type that will sit there, stand by the door.
I have two of those. Two of those. Yep. Yeah, because it's supposed to get like 19. So, it's really just too cold to let them outside.
Oh, it is. Yeah, and I mean, it's one of those things where it just makes you think, how would you like it? And if you were put outside out in the freezing cold, and if there was no way for you to get back in.
No, right. My dog sleeps in the bed. The cat sleeps on the foot of the bed. And if they wanted to sleep under the covers, they could. I just, you got to treat them like part of the family. And I just can't leave them outside like that. So.
Oh, yeah.
Besides, it keeps them warm.
Exactly, yeah.
Good feet warmers.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And, but yeah, whenever it's wintertime in my area, when I have the heater up, it's very telling, about how my dog is always lying right next to my heater.
Yes, my cat likes to sit right next to the heating vent, so I just moved her bed there. I was just like, okay, sit there.
My cats like to fight over. They like to sleep right on the vent.
Oh.
And the funny thing is, sometimes they actually start to fight each other over the vent. Like, hey, and you have to sit there, be the guy. Hey, come on, guys. But no, I mean, and then sometimes it's amazing. The cat seems to, the one cat is the type that will, as soon as the door's open, he'll bolt outside. And you can sit there, do all you want to say, no. And then he is the type of cat that will, once he's out, he's out. He's but then we've recently found out that we have to think he's going to someone else's house
Oh.
because he comes in and is not cold at all,
Oh. So he's
Um,
like he's two-timing you.
Yes, well, he is the key. He is this cat. He is like literally the cat from the classic Disney movie, That Darn Cat.
Oh, yes.
He is,
I
he,
know that one.
he is literally like DC because I have literally seen him. I'm outside. Not gonna lie, I was having a beer just outside and sit there, see my cat sneak. I also I see my neighbor run outside. My cat has a whole rotisserie chicken.
What?
Stole the rotisserie chicken. I see my neighbor run outside, start to chase him, and then he sits there, starts yelling at me and all this other stuff like your cat stole my chicken.
God, that's a big cat that can take a whole rotisserie chicken down.
Well, he's not that big, but he's not that big is the funny thing, but he just was, and I sit there, I offered to buy him another rotisserie chicken and all that stuff. It was just so, yeah.
So yeah, and so if you had to give advice to anybody wanted to pursue the industry of film, what advice would you give to said person?
Well, I think it's really important to take every opportunity that comes your way. Sometimes things don't pay as well as perhaps you would like, but every opportunity offers you a new connection to someone who might hire you again. And really, I started 5 years ago, and I have just been so fortunate. Every show I've taken has led to other shows and other jobs. So be kind, be polite, be enthusiastic, and do your best. Help anybody that you see that needs help on set, and take a chance on everything that comes your way, because you never know where it could lead.
Exactly. And I could testify to that because I was not a country music fan for the longest time. And ironic because back when I was a teenager, I actually made a rant video about country music. That ironic, fast forward all these years later, a year ago now, I actually was in a country music video. I mean, just the irony of all that. And then I was gonna, I originally I was just gonna be an extra, but right place, right time. Then I got offered a fight scene, and and I mean, doing that definitely opened up a lot of doors. And so and I mean, when you say take any opportunity that comes your way, I can testify that is definitely true.
Yeah, I mean, if it's something that you can do, I mean, if you're already booked, then obviously you can't. But take every opportunity that comes your way, and if opportunities come that you can't do, make sure you pass those off to people, because there's a lot of people out there right now who don't have work and could use the work.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
Well.
So would there be any upcoming projects that you would want the audience to be aware of?
Well, let's see. There's a Lifetime film that's coming out sometime this next year called The Monique Smith Story. It's a true story of the oldest missing child that's coming out. I'm about to start another Lifetime film next week, as a matter of fact. I think it's going to be called Stalker Wives, and those things usually come out after 3 or 4 months. I would definitely take a look at Back in Action, because that's out there, and that's fun. And then just kind of a sleeper film, Popular Theory, that came out 2 years ago. It's a kids' high school film that I worked on. It was really an act of love, and it's one of my favorite shows that I ever did. So I think it's on Amazon.
Sure. Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay. All right.
Thanks for having me.
No problem.
We definitely would love to have you. But we definitely would love to have you back on again.
Okay, well, thank you so much. You just let me know when, and I will get in touch, and we'll work something out. But thank you for the time. I enjoyed talking about history and film, and I
Oh
mean,
yeah,
some of the best things there are.
Thank
certainly.
you.
And yeah, and we also will be sure to have a link. We certainly will have a link like to your Instagrams. So yeah,
Oh, okay. Thank you so much. I
yeah,
appreciate
certainly,
it.
of course. But yeah,
And
Right.
and remember to get some of the, for those watching, remember to get some of the merch for me and Eric at poppoptees.com. And we'll, hey, definitely do so, please. It'll be awesome.
that I will.
I'll see you guys again and sitting down by the fire.
Mm-hmm.